Victoria now, where a state of emergency has been declared. Reporter Karianne Greenbank is live for us now. Kari, what does this mean?
Well, Lizzie, the state of emergency, that comes into effect from midday, so in just half an hour. The Premier says it will last for 4 weeks, if not longer. Essentially what it means is that the government now has the power to enforce its directives. So in Victoria, that includes the ban on mass gatherings over 500 people and ensuring people who return home to Australia self-isolate for 14 days. Now, right now, the government says it's speaking with Victoria Police to see if officers can do spot checks on returned travellers to make sure they are self-isolating. If it's found that they're breaching their quarantine, they could be fined up to $20,000. The Premier says he doesn't expect any fines to be handed out at this stage, but the government now has that power.
These powers have never been used before. That gives you, I hope, a really clear sense about the unprecedented nature of this public health emergency.
Now, overnight, there were another 14 cases of coronavirus confirmed in Victoria. That's a 24% jump on yesterday, bringing our total number to 71. More clarification was put around the various bans. This morning, major cultural centres in Melbourne were closed. They include the State Library and the NGV. The mass gathering ban, well, more clarification was put around that. So in Victoria, that doesn't include Parliament, workplaces, construction sites, office buildings. They're all exempt. At this stage, of course, schools, universities and TAFEs are exempt as well, although they're being encouraged to not hold school assemblies or lectures, of course, over 500 people. As for the 14-day enforced quarantine, well, anyone arriving at Melbourne Airport early this morning, they will now have to stay at home or in a hotel for the next 14 days. The Chief Health Officer says they're not going to be able to go to the shops to buy food. They're going to have to get friends or relatives to go shopping for them. However, they are allowed outside for things like going for walks in parks, as long as they maintain a safe distance from other people.
If you're going to be in a queue, if you're going to be in a line, that's too close. But we don't want to stop people being able to go out in their own garden, to be able to walk the dog, to go to the park, where they'll have a sufficient space from other people.
Now, Lizzie, the state government has already started making care packages to hand out to people who find themselves in quarantine but with not enough basic supplies. It's already handed out some of those care packages. It says soon it expects it will be handing out a lot more.
Karianne Greenbank there in Melbourne. Now we'll go to Damien Ryan, who's at Sydney Airport for us this morning, where thousands of Australians are returning home to the news they'll have to self-isolate for the next 14 days.
Extraordinary times and extraordinary scenes this morning at the arrivals lounge here at Sydney Airport. People emerging, carrying their suitcases and a piece of paper which confirmed that they now face 14 days strict quarantine. There were certainly mixed feelings, some returning from holidays overseas, and we're looking forward to a 14-day extension of that vacation. Actress Toni Collette also touched down this morning, and she said she could understand the need to shut things down.
Toni, how do you feel about self-isolating for 14 days?
It's got to be done.
Yeah? Do you agree with the government's decision to self-isolate for 14 days?
Yep.
But there were others not so happy, scrambling to try and beat this deadline but failing, and others who are self-employed and wondering how are they going to put food on the table because they now face 14 days locked up.
We actually did a scramble. We paid for to change our flights, and then we've managed to get home quite quickly, but we missed the deadline by about 7.5 hours, unfortunately.
Well, I can't work, so I've got no income coming in. No one seems to be able to tell me.
Of course, this is putting people off flying anywhere, and Qantas, of course, has been hit hard by these restrictions. Only last week they announced 25% of its international flights were scrapped. They're now looking at even more significant cutbacks, both to their international and domestic flights.